And I want to welcome you to the Meacham interviews, and today we have Allison Joseph and Jon Tribble.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Hi.
Allison, our usual procedure is to have someone begin by reading a poem and talk a little bit about its genesis.
Okay.
Could you do that?
I would love to do that. This is a poem entitled The Numerology of Kisses. To make a kiss, it takes 34 muscles, abundant nerve endings in the lips, but just one bone, the lower jaw, soul-moving bone in the head. Who knows when humans began to pucker, first felt that rush of blood to the lips, surge in heart rate and blood pressure, endorphins doing their cha-cha in our brains. In a 1-minute kiss, you burn 6 calories, and scientists speculate the average person in a lifetime will spend over 20,000 minutes kissing. Over 120,000 calories burned, best diet ever. The first filmed kiss happened in 1896, and since then we've sat in that cavernous movie dark, heads lifted to the screen to watch tutorials on how to do it. How much lip, tongue, which way to tilt our heads. To the right, one researchers found, at least 65% of us. 50% of us have our first kiss before 14, and the average woman kisses 79 men before she marries. Between that first kiss and the kiss from Mr. 80, millions of bacteria will emigrate from mouth to mouth, bringing us the prospect of cavities, colds, or the flu, a bit of yesterday's lunch. But when I found my Mr. 80, all I wanted to do was lean in with eyes closed, kiss and kiss this one man, promising me the infinite, our faith indivisible, incalculable pleasure from his lips to mine, whatever it cost.
Well, obviously one could ask you how much research you have to do.
Well, he's my Mr. 80, but there were not like 79 people. I read an article, all those internet articles
Sure.
that, clickbait, and you're like, this is interesting. Let me spend the next 15 minutes. And I felt like I had to redeem the time that I spent reading that article, at least. And I have no idea if anything in the article is actually true, but it all sounded so plausible. Like, yeah, 79 men, sure, yeah, right. 120,000 calories, yeah, great. And I often do that, look for unusual things to write about that could be fun, a lighthearted kind of poem.
Yeah. It has a serious side, too, to it, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the poems, especially in that book, too, yeah. It's kind of reminded me, do you know that movie, Cinema Paradiso?
Yes.
Where they cut out all the kisses and then show all those at the end. Yeah, that's great. I was thinking of that, yeah. Now, Jon, why don't you read one, too?
All right. I'm going to read a poem that is over 30 years old.
Wow.
So, it was written in an interesting way, which I'll talk about afterward. Fathers. His hands touch mine like a fly landing on my fingers. I don't know if he touches me so softly because he thinks I will break or he will break. If I move my hand to hold his, he is gone, and acts as if he'd never been there. I saw him with his father, before the old man withered from whiskey and cigarettes, talking about the North Alabama sun, when the old man suddenly wrapped his arms around him. My father's face twisted to be touched so closely with no chance of escape. His arms stayed frozen at his sides as if the hug had crushed them, and he stood answering his father, hands almost reaching up, but unable to pull away from his legs. I'd never try to hug him after that, or even touch his hand, unless to test him, and I know he'd never fail, nor I succeed. So this poem was actually written in a creative writing class, one of my very first undergraduate poetry-only classes.
With David Jones?
Not with Dave, with Ralph Burns.
Oh, yeah.
Ralph
yeah.
Burns read the Charles Simic poem, My Mother's Lips.
Mhm.
And then, which is a poem that focuses on a teenage speaker kind of looking back to why his mother always was saying exactly what he was saying, just a moment behind him. And so he read us this poem, and he said, I want you to write a poem about a gesture. Just one simple gesture and what it might mean. And so I wrote this poem. And really never changed it much except for some line break things. And I think it was actually, it was the first published poem I
Really?
had, published in poetry.
Mm-hmm. A fact I resent to this day.
Yes, and Joe Parisi had me add one comma. So that was the change. And
Yes.
so,
He'll
but
always have that to hang over me. My
Yes.
first poem was
Well-
in Poetry Magazine.
well, the other interesting thing about it was, at the time, I didn't have a typewriter, so my mother would often type up things that I had, and so she typed up this poem. She handed it to me and said, "That's not your father, that's you." and she was right at the time. At the time, I would have been the less emotionally expressive person. My father was always a big hugger. So in a way, he's standing in for his father. His father, I was never quite old enough to know him in that way before he died. He died when I was between, I think, first and second grade. So, but no, it just seemed to make sense, thinking of that in-class writing assignment, to go that way.
Your poems tend to be a little bit more directly autobiographical than yours do. You
I'm a
think?
bigger liar. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a bigger liar.
That's another way to put it.
Though in this book, there are a lot of stories that probably is what separates my two books. The Natural State book was really one I put together thinking about family, and there's many a good thing I was thinking about, kind of a combination of sort of a greatest hits,
Yeah.
but also about the broader world. So there are definitely things in here that edge much more toward fiction building.
But you both deal with a little bit of, well, not a little bit, a lot of the social issues too.
Oh,
I
yes,
mean, they always,
yeah.
wherever you begin, they're always expanding out,
Right.
whether it's autobiographical, expand out, or that sense of irony and comedy is sometimes in yours, all of a sudden you realize, wait a minute, this isn't just funny. And so I'm wondering what kind of crossover as you
Well,
are writers together.
of course, we met. John's originally from Little Rock, Arkansas. That's the title of his first book. And I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and we met as graduate students in Indiana University, because that's where, of course, that's
Where
obvious.
New York
Where
and
a New York
Arkansas
girl and
comes
Arkansas guy
together.
would meet, of course. And we did lots of work as graduate students. We read each other's poems as graduate
Right.
students, so we were familiar with critiquing each other's work. And over the years, John has really backburnered his own work to get other people's work, whether it's through Crab Orchard Review or the Crab Orchard series in poetry. He's behind these things and has sort of put his work on the back burner to publish other people, get their work out there. So my role in the latter half of our relationship has been to nag him, otherwise nag about fix the disposal. We don't have a disposal, do things around the house. No, I nag him to, like, finish a poem, finish a book.
Well, this book exists because of your nagging. So,
I'm a proud literary nagger.
well, I really don't worry. I love the writing. The writing is the thing that I really love to do, and so I don't give away that over the years.
No, you were writing all these years.
Which is why I'm this book came out in 2016. This book came out in 2017. I have a book coming out in 2018. I mean, and people say,
People
wow,
like,
this is happening so
"You're on a
quickly.
roll."
And I'm like,
No,
no, it's
put
not
together.
happening
Yeah.
quickly. It's
Just 30 years.
I've got 30 years of writing that I can look back at, and so, and now I'm looking back at it more. But no, this book came up because you put on Facebook.
I said something as a Facebook status like, John has all these books, but none of you people get to read them. Nah. And two presses said, well, we'd like to see them.
Yes, yeah, and so I sent them the books, and
Do you find each other influencing each other in terms of like editing and stuff like that?
I don't know at this point. Like,
I do know that that one thing that's often in mind for me, particularly when you are aware of what I'm working on, that I know you'll be the first reader. And so that does have an influence. There's a poem in that Truth to Power anthology that you're a part of. One of the two poems I have there is, the longer one, is something that I wrote when she was away. It's about white supremacist shootings in the Midwest. And I wrote it knowing she'd be the first person to read it. And so that certainly had a real influence on that. And actually you helped me a great deal getting, when it first was done, Rodney Jones, who was our colleague, I was to do a reading with him, and I showed him the poem, and he said if I was going to read it at the reading, he would want to leave the room.
he said, just tell me when you're going to read this and I'll leave.
Right, because he said, it's not poetry, it's agitprop. And I would actually, and I said, yes, it is. I said, it is agitprop. And I said, I'm still not sure how it's going to work, even at this point, as a poem. I mean, that was 17 years ago, and I've been working on it all this time. I thought it fit for Truth to Power, but I don't think it's done, because it's so difficult, a series of things. But I brought that version back to Allison. She took a day and made some comments. I worked on it. I gave it to Rodney the next morning, said nothing. He walked back into my office and said, you have to read this poem. So her editing was at least able to move it from more agitprop to closer to poetry. So I'm still wondering if the poem's going to ever completely work as a poem. But
Yeah, and another thing I was noticing is that like in one of those books there's so much form in there, villanelles.
Yeah.
I had my students write villanelles the other night. Of course, they were total disasters. It's the hardest poem, I think, to write in. And the music in yours comes across in a slightly different way. And you both write formally. Yours are more surface formal, and yours are more what I would call, I would say more formatted formally. And yours are more formal in a different way. But you include a lot of references to music. John Lee Hooker was one of my favorites.
Oh,
for instance, in that poem. Yeah. So do you guys both listen to a lot of music?
oh yes, yeah, and you would say that the very first time you were in my apartment, the first thing you did was you went to look to see, well, what's this guy's music like?
Right.
And
You tell a lot by that.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how the kids do it these days. I guess you have to open up someone's laptop and see their playlist. But yeah, I went over and went through the albums and said, okay, this will do. This is acceptable. And then that was the reason I wrote that poem about you playing Bob Marley for me. It's like, here's the irony. This white dude from Little Rock, Arkansas is playing me Bob Marley, but I'm the one with an actual mother from Jamaica. So isn't this really interesting and odd? That was another poem, which I don't happen to have that poem with me, but
You guys are lucky to be teaching together.
we're lucky to be together, I think. I think we're lucky that we put up with one another's quirks and one another's interests, and
That's true of all marriages. Have that.
we're able to give each other the space to write, but also to
Yeah,
prod
that's
each
important.
other, because he's prodded me about things too. Some of those things I still haven't done.
Well, here's a chance to put a little, publishing note in for Southern Illinois.
Yeah.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about the program.
We are a 3-year MFA program with concentrations in poetry and fiction, and one of the aspects that we brought to the program was Crab Orchard Review, which is a national literary journal. And after the founding of Crab Orchard Review, we didn't have enough to do, so we decided to launch a poetry series, which is a Crab Orchard Poetry Series, Crab Orchard Series in Poetry, which John is the managing editor of. I'm sort of a freelance consultant.
Right, right. When we come down to, usually what, we have 2 different contests each year, an open competition and a first book. Both bring in right around 500 to 600 submissions, and I read all of them.
Yep.
And
You do.
Always have.
And not many people do.
He reads.
No.
He does a first read on everything, and then he'll stumble home to me with like your finalist list.
Right, right.
And at that point, I'll be like,
Well, if I have things, particularly if I have things that I just can't wrap my head around after all that reading, I'll bring them to you before I make a decision, yes
Right.
or no, and
Right.
see how you respond to them.
Right.
Also, when Rodney Jones was there, he would help out on that
right,
as well.
right.
But it is fascinating to see that many books. It does mean that's the one thing I will admit that it stops you from writing.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're doing it, you can't hear yourself.
Well, particularly during the period where we were actually getting physical manuscripts, like 500 manuscripts coming to the office,
Well, that would wear me out.
and physically you'd get a shoulder issue
right,
from
my
turning
shoulder would lock up by the end of it from turning pages.
Our joke was that we were going to get you a little helper monkey, little capuchin monkey to turn the pages.
Keep tossing in peanuts.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, why not?
So, but
all sorts of helper animals
It is.
exist.
It is one of the things that I'm very glad to be electronically
online.
doing now.
Well, it's
Yeah.
one of the things that people think of too when they think of the whole program and the Devil's Kitchen thing that you run. And,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should tell you, a few years ago, I was talking with Phil Levine, and we were trying to name. He's saying, "Well, where do you send your students?" And we came up with a list of about 8 or 10 places that found acceptable, that and not really much beyond that, but Southern Illinois is on that list. so.
Yeah. Yeah, and you've sent us some fantastic people over the
Yeah.
years. Melanie Jordan and Paul Guest, just amazing people.
So,
All right. Well, I want to thank you for
You're welcome.
sitting in for this.
Yeah.
All right.
That was fun.
Okay.
yes.